Welcome back to Thru the Ringer. I'm still your host, Tate Frazier, and Kevin O'Connor is still here, and we're talking mock drafts. This is the best time of the year for you, KOC. A lot of fluid mock drafting. We're still waiting. The lottery is on Sunday, so we will have these teams locked in. So you will do an updated version probably on Monday, early next week, we'll say, to give you some leeway there. But right now, as it stands, you have Alex Sarr of the Perth Wildcats as the number one pick out of France, going to the Detroit Pistons if the odds kind of work out that way. So how do we feel about Sarr being the number one pick? Are we wrapping our heads around that?
I mean, Sarr seems to be the most probable selection to be number one. That will be dependent on who actually lands the pick and their own needs and philosophy. But Sarr, with his versatility on defense, he's somebody that a lot of teams could utilize on regardless of the way in which they play, because he can play in any scheme. Offensively, he needs to improve his jumper. So for the Pistons, a team in need of more floor spacing around Cade Cunningham, that's not a perfect fit, but they also need defense, and Sarr provides some upside. He has touch near the basket. He can attack the rim off the dribble as well. So with his size as a 7-footer with a creation ability as well, he feels like the most likely number one pick, but we'll find out Sunday night if the team that actually ends up in that spot makes any sense for Sarr. And the Pistons, to me, if they did get number one, I'd be looking to trade down.
Yeah, Troy Weaver going to have to work some magic there, but he's only 19 years old. That's the new meme there. Alex Sarr, he's only 19 years old. Number two, you have Donovan Clingan out of UConn, the 7'2" star who's about 20 years old, and that would be going to the Wizards. So Joe House, congratulations, you have your new big man. Where does Clingan fit in, and is there any, if the Wizards were to get the number one pick, would he be someone that they'd have more interest in at number one?
I mean, the Wizards need absolutely everything. Right. There's not a single thing that the Wizards don't need. So I think for them,
new mascot, new everything. Yeah.
I mean,
new medical trainer. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, new arena.
I don't know if
everything.
that'll happen, but they need everything new. But the Wizards, I have them selecting Clingan in this mock because it just feels like the safe, stable option where Clingan is somebody that can help you have a top 15 defense. The Wizards over the last 10 years, whether it was the John Wall era or the Jordan Poole era, have always had a terrible defense. And so Clingan is somebody that can provide stability to that franchise as much needed. And then with their other picks in this year's class, and then in future lotteries to come, because they're still going to stink, that's where you can take some of those swings. Because I think at the number 2 pick this year, there's no guy that I'd rather take for them specifically over someone who provides some stability that like a guy like Clingan can provide to them.
Yeah, I like that. Number 3, you have Nikola Topic, right? It is the itch. And the Hornets, you have them selecting him as kind of LaMelo Ball insurance, trying to figure out that backcourt right next to Brandon Miller.
How do you feel about
that? I like a 6'6" point guard, and I like anybody from Croatia. I'm a sucker for the Croatians. I was a big Mario Hezonja guy once upon a time.
Me too, unfortunately.
I like Super Mario.
Love his attitude.
I love Dario Saric. I like Mario and Dario. I thought they were going to be a nice little duo in the NBA, KOC. So don't get me too excited with Nikola Topic, but where does he fit in like top 3 is where you have him right now?
For now, I mean, I think with him, he's somebody he's one of the better downhill attackers in this year's draft class, and we've seen that all year for him overseas. Granted, he did miss 4 months from January to April. Topic is somebody that he would provide a compliment to LaMelo if LaMelo works out, if he gets back on track, but also serve as insurance as a potential replacement if the Hornets decided, you know what, we want more stability alongside Brandon Miller and Mark Williams and our other young guys.
And you can play all 3 of those guys because of their size. Miller, Melo, and Topic. I mean, they're all 6'6" and above.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. So I think that's where logically for Charlotte it makes some sense to provide support behind LaMelo just in case things continue to go awry, but also somebody who could play with him.
Yeah, number 5, speaking of people to play with, you got the Spurs here, and they're taking Rob Dillingham, and everyone's trying to figure out who's the running mate for Wemby. Trae Young signs with CAA. Everyone says, read the tea leaves. He wants to go to San Antonio. We'll see what happens, but Dillingham, there you go, KOC says it. Dillingham would be an interesting fit just because of the electricity of the way that he plays, putting him next to Wemby.
Yeah, Dillingham, to me, if I'm the Spurs, I'd rather draft a guy like a Rob Dillingham over trading for Trae Young. Dillingham on a rookie contract, able to grow alongside Victor Wembanyama and really embrace that system. I think it would be very good for him.
Be great for Nike. Nike would love that.
Oh, it'd be sensational for Nike. Right. But Dillingham's kind of shifty playmaking creation style with and without the ball in his hands. Imagine the 2-man game that could form with Victor Wembanyama, with Dillingham and Wemby over the course of time. I think it could be beautiful basketball with those two together. And then they have this range of skills because of their size. You have Dillingham, who's close to 6 feet, and then Wemby at 7'4", one of the biggest guys in the league. You can't switch that two-man game. You can't switch that screen. I think it would be a major problem for defenses if Dillingham were to work out in the ways that Wemby has.
Yeah, and I love that first step for Dillingham, and I like, obviously the size is the issue when it comes to Rob, but when you have a 7'3" freak behind him, it makes everything easier on the defensive end to clean things up. If guys do get by you or do want to take a shot over you, they still have to deal with Wemby. So I think that's a good one. Cody Williams is a freshman out of Colorado that we've talked about. He's a guy that maybe could be in that top 3 range, depending on if a team falls in love with him. You have him going number 6 right now to Toronto. We know that Toronto loves those kind of rangy wings, and Cody Williams checks all those boxes.
For sure. And I think with Cody Williams, I interviewed him recently for the Ringers NBA draft show, and I asked him a question on there. I was like, well, you shot over 40% from 3, but on less than 2 attempts per game. And you know this from watching Colorado, Tate. There were times where he was hesitant to even shoot.
Sometimes it looked like he'd been told not to shoot.
Yes.
Weirdly.
Very strange. And, he gave kind of a wishy-washy answer about how he can get his attempts up. He's like, oh, it's just about watching film and, just taking those opportunities when they're there. I'm curious with your college basketball perspective of Cody Williams. He doesn't feel ready to me to play right away. He feels like one of those guys that you're still investing in longer term. Even his brother, Jalen Williams, is a 3-year player in college. To me, Cody Williams feels like one of those guys we are drafting purely for potential rather than a guy that's going to help. Like the Raptors, they're not a contender right now. I think they're the type of team that can afford to be patient.
Yeah, and I think he's one of those guys, if you are patient and you let him kind of grow into his body, he could be a really special player. But I think he is, what was the Fran Fraschilla, 2 years away from being 2 years away. I think, maybe he's just 2-3 years away, but he's still got some time to figure it out. But again, they're at number 6. That'll be interesting. Number 9, you got Reed Sheppard, the Kentucky freshman, who kind of waffled on maybe he would go back. We'll see what happens. He was at one point number 1 on the big board. You know what I mean?
The mock draft.
On the mock draft,
to the Spurs.
To the Spurs, because we were trying to find that running back. His teammate, actually, Dillingham, is there now. But you got him at number 9 going to the Rockets. A smaller guard, listed at 6'3", probably around 6'2" in reality. But what's the fit there, and what are the Rockets like about a guy like Reed Sheppard?
When I was thinking about who the Rockets should take there at the 9th pick, I was like, well, they have Van Vliet on a short-term contract. He's a little bit older. Who's your potential Van Vliet replacement at some point? And Sheppard is the guy that just came to mind. I was like, smaller guard who can play with and without the ball, who's tough, gritty, hard-nosed guy, and some of his limitations with his size could be mitigated by the amount of length and versatility the Rockets have around Van Vliet currently. To me, it's like a perfect fit for Sheppard, and for the Rockets, he's a better shooter than Van Vliet is. And he's the type of guy that I could see him really fitting well there with Şengün in the 2-man game next to Jabari Smith in the backcourt with Jalen Green, who's more of a score-first player. I like the Sheppard pick. I still really like Reed Sheppard. To me, he is pretty much a sure thing to be a good quality NBA player. It's just a matter of how much does the handle develop, how much does he become a creator, and will he be in a situation where some of the size limitations don't matter as much. I'd still love to see him with San Antonio, but probably not with their first pick.
Yeah, maybe Rob and Reed do a little parent swap there where they decide to, hey, let's, the Antoine Jameson, Vince Carter, you know what I mean? Teammates changing the hats. That would be good. The top 10, KOC has it right there. Like we said, it is fluid. It does change. I want to go to the end of the mock draft because I do find some interesting names there. Starting at around 43, like Terrence Shannon Jr. is a name, Harrison Ingram, Tyler Kolek. If you're a fan of college basketball, some of these guys that are well-known entities are down here. But I want to talk about number 52 on the board, Adem Bona. I heard that he had a 48.5-inch vertical. This is off the books, not at the combine. But that would be historical if we were able to see that. Is there anyone like Bona or maybe even a Justin Edwards, Tristan Newton, some of these guys later in the second round that after the combine they get eyeballs on them, they could be moving up in the other direction?
Bona could be one of those guys. Because we know something about him at UCLA over 2 years is that he never stops hustling.
Right.
He never stops bringing
Great
attitude.
motor.
Exactly. It's never ending. And so I think with him, if he shows off further improved versatility on defense, that's something where a team could look at him and say, okay, this is a guy that we can have for 10 years that could be a switchable big and a rim protector and a hard-nosed rebounder and a good screener and finisher at the rim. This guy belongs higher than in the 50s on your board. Right now, he's just kind of like just a big. He's just a big that you feel good about. He's a hustle big, but you want to feel, if you want to take him in the 20s or the 30s, that he can be a little bit more than that. I do like the fit for him at the Warriors with the 52nd pick.
Like going in after Looney, like a nice little, like he learns from the UCLA guy that's been there. Yeah.
And then, I mean, they already have Trace Jackson-Davis as well, but I don't think it hurts to have another guy in that system either.
Especially what we're seeing with, the Timberwolves basically showing us that size and length do matter.
Yes.
Tall teams are going to win titles in the near future, so that's good to know. Last thing about the mock draft, number 55, we have to talk about it. It was a Clippers pick, but is now a Lakers pick, which is kind of funny. But Bronny James, you have him coming off the board 55 to the Lakers. It does feel like all signs are pointing, even though LeBron's saying he doesn't know where he is in his head emotionally right now, it does feel like all signs are pointing to the Lakers getting into the Bronny James business and staying in the LeBron James business. At 55, is that possible where he gets drafted, or is he more of a two-way sign, with the team and go G League?
I mean, I feel like Bronny should just go back to college and develop.
I've been told by my sources that it is a basically 0% chance that he's going to go somewhere else.
Of going back to college.
Right, yeah.
So he'll stay in the NBA, get drafted somewhere,
right.
and get...
Basically, him being invited to the combine was enough of, he's in.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough, man. He's just not ready. He's nowhere near ready physically. He's not ready with his game. He shoots below 30% on catch and shoot threes. He was not getting to the basket in the half court at all, and when he was getting swatted. And I just think with Bronny, he's nowhere near close. But he is the son of LeBron James. He does have athleticism. He does have playmaking feel. We've seen the flashes of the shooting potential when he gets hot in the past. His shot looks good. He just doesn't go in a lot. At the 55th pick, to me, if the Lakers are going to pick anybody, Colin Cowherd said it when he saw my mock draft weeks ago. He's like, you're telling me you're not going to take Bronny James over PJ Hall, who's a good screener? It's like,
I like PJ Hall's game, but you're right. I mean, we're playing politics here too.
It's politics,
if
exactly.
you're Jeannie Buss and you're that front office, LeBron, let's say he opts out or is planning to opt out or whatever. When you do something like this, is a very good faith thing to get him re-signed at a reasonable number. So
that's part of it. And you also might hire the coach he wants, his podcast co-host, JJ Redick.
I mean, you might be minding the game. Brought to you by Spectrum Network. Yeah, it's gonna be good
every Friday night.
I like it. Yeah,
Head coach of the Lakers. Redick.
Yeah, with guest Byron Scott and all the boys will be lining up. James Worthy will be on there. That'll be good.
James Worthy's really good on TV.
Best.
He's so great.
He's the best. We love Big Game James. I love when he's smoking cigars, having a good time.